Today I'm going to talk about the two things that I love the most, the Dharma and the natural environment. Both influence and inspire me in learning to see things as they are, completely connected, interdependent, and constantly changing. Both the Dharma and the natural environment are also valuable reminders to stay aware of the preciousness of this moment and to know that every thought and action matters, and to also expand my perspective to the broadest, far-reaching potential that anything is possible, including becoming fully awakened Buddha and living in a sustainable, ecologically, and harmonious environment. As a kid, one of the first basic things I learned about being environmentally responsible was the saying, reduce, reuse, and recycle. I'd like to explain these in both an environmental and a Dharmic context. The first step is reduce. Reduce the clinging and craving of always wanting more, better, and different. This applies internally and externally. Venerable's teachings this past week on the Four Truths reminded me again of how influential and detrimental craving is. It is what causes me to have constant dissatisfaction in my life that has driven me to always chase after the next fix, the next ski turn in fresh powder, the next wave from surfing, and the next tasty bite of food. This constant chasing is driven by a deep feeling of not good enough, always looking for the external thing to validate and soothe the inner hole inside me. The beauty of the Dharma that I'm starting to slowly realize is there is no hole. I am enough. We all are, simply because we exist. This winter, after reflecting on a publicly embarrassing moment, I was struck by the thought and the fact that this event, this action, has nothing to do with my self-worth. No external action or opinion has anything to do with my worth. These things are two totally unrelated and separate things, a complete non sequitur. And yet, this is the exact opposite of what I and society believes. We are taught that our worth depends on external things, validation, material goods, and status. The short animated film, The Story of Stuff, that I highly recommend watching, gives a very good description of how we have gotten into this cycle on a material level. Starting in the 1950s, the view that material success equaled happiness was actively promoted from our government and our society. This is also when the average personal level of happiness started declining and has declined ever since. This craving external things, especially material goods, is a huge factor for the climate crisis that we find ourselves in. We forget how much our actions and choices influence the greater world, and every item we purchase, every mile we drive, makes an impact on the environment that will have long-lasting effects. I'd like to give you some facts about climate change and how quickly our world is deteriorating due to our denial of cause and effect. But we didn't have internet this morning, so you'll have to look up the facts on your own. One key solution to working on reducing our craving is to cultivate contentment and appreciation for what we have and who we are. One example of this I've learned since ordaining is in clothing. After getting rid of a vast majority of my clothes to move here, the few clothes that I brought with me, I developed a lot of attachment towards. I still hung on to them as being a part of me and my identity, an important expression of who I am. But with the attachment inevitably came a lot of turmoil in being parted from them, especially once I ordained and couldn't wear them again. I could only look at them and they didn't bring as much satisfaction. Now that some time has passed, I find it relieving to rarely think about clothes. I wear them and that's it, nice and simple. The peace of mind and contentment from this is very nice and leaves me much more time to focus on other things that are much more important. So while I know many of you viewing this online, it's harder for you to wear the same clothes every day, I still urge you to look at your life and see what you can reduce. Reducing our material consumption is a huge way to reduce our impact on the earth. According to the documentary, The Story of Stuff, I do have a few facts from it. Over the past 30 years, 1/3 of the planet's resources have been used up. For all the materials and products purchased in the US, only 1% of those products are still being used 6 months later. That means 99% is either consumed or thrown away. Americans, on average, create 4.5 pounds of trash a day. And for every can of trash that we create, it took about 70 pounds of industrial waste to create that 1 can of trash. 70 pounds of industrial waste that is harmful to us and our planet. Think about this the next time you purchase something and ask, do I really need this? What are the causes and effects of this purchase? Or do I have something that is good enough, or something that I can reuse instead? Reusing is the next step after reducing what we purchase. This means being creative and seeing how you can fix things or finding another way to use that item. At the Abbey, we cut up old towels and reuse them for rags. We reuse our plastic bags until they practically disintegrate. And we compost all of our food waste to make a rich organic material for our gardens. Maybe we can even encourage all the kind people who purchase our food to reuse the plastic vegetable bags instead of using new ones. When I start looking at what I throw away, I realize there are a lot of little things that I can do to reduce my waste footprint. A very important element in reducing things is to see the value in them, pausing and seeing all the incredible causes and conditions that go into creating everything. Living or not helps us to bring a sense of appreciation to that object. Once I can cultivate a sense of appreciation and understanding, it brings a much deeper feeling of respect and the wish to treat it with care, not as something burdensome and disposable. Only after trying to reduce our purchases and driving as much as we can do we then turn to the third step of recycling. Recycling means we convert the energy and resources into something useful instead of considering useless. In a Dharma context, this means mind training, taking something that is unwanted and finding a way to transform it into something valuable. Nothing is useless and worthless if I look at it from a different angle. As far as recycling what we can no longer use goes, there are many more options than we realize. We just have to take a little time to look it up and what we can do with it. Most soft plastic can be recycled through the company Trex, who uses them in decking material. And most Safeways take those plastic bags. Paper, metal, plastic, glass, they're the most obvious and easiest to recycle, but they add up and make a difference. The key is to pause and take a moment to think before you toss it in the trash. Ask yourself, can this be recycled? Can this be transformed into something useful? While being a bodhisattva eco-warrior can seem daunting, considering the final goal of reversing climate change, cleaning up the earth, and attaining awakening, we must never give up hope. Every moment, every thought, every action does make a difference and adds up. It only seems daunting when we think from a very limited, isolated, individual way. But when we think of the incredible ripple effect of how much we influence each other, our surroundings, and the earth, we can begin to think a little more broadly. Seeing how many options and creative ways there are to do things can loosen up the narrow view of helplessness and bring a sense of inspiration to our unlimited potential. Cultivating a sense of responsibility, our own unique individual ability to respond to whatever arises, can help fuel us to really seeing that our actions do matter. And the more we see and believe this, the more we can take action to improving our lives and our planet in the greatest way possible. Thank you.